I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Beyond the Fear podcast, the place you come for motivation, inspiration, uplifting, and overall positive message. I'm your host, DJ, and today's episode was inspired by a video I saw the other day that said you're you away from a breakthrough, or you're you away from, you know, getting to where you want to be. And he was pretty much saying that your breakthrough or your goal is a lot closer than you think. What are you willing to sacrifice to get there, to make it to that thing? And it's pretty much saying that most of the time that we are our biggest obstacles, that we get in the way of ourselves the most. And I honestly feel like there is a lot of truth in that, that we, between like maybe our self-doubt, um, lack of self-discipline, things like that, that our unwillingness to sacrifice the things that we may enjoy doing for the things that we want to do. But yeah, sacrifice like it pays a lot of what is stopping us from getting to where we want to be, and it's just sometimes you got to realize that you have to be willing to let go of some things, and it may not be forever, but for right now, while you're trying to lock in and get to where you want to be, you have to be willing to sacrifice things. You know what I'm saying? Sacrifice some of your time, sacrifice whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you know you're trying to lose weight, you want to sacrifice those sweets. You want to sacrifice some of those foods that you enjoy, and you're gonna have to go through a little, I guess, pain and suffering with working out, things like that. You're gonna have to transition. You're gonna have to make lifestyle changes. These aren't little things that are just, are going to happen overnight. I'm a testament to that. That these are things that you gotta constantly do. And I know for at least for me, when it comes to this weight loss journey, the first couple of months it was tough. Like the workouts were tough, but I think the tougher part for me was really getting serious about my portion control, getting serious about the things that I ate, letting go of fried food, letting go of, you know, just a lot of things that I know aren't good for me. And, obviously the portion thing. So letting go of fried food and the portions were probably the two biggest things for me, because I didn't do well. I didn't portion my food out at all. So, that was a new thing for me. And then trying to not eat certain things at all was tough, because, you grow up on, well, I grew up on fried food. So to now to see some fried catfish or something, and just my mind now is like, maybe I shouldn't have that. Whereas before I didn't even think about it. I'm putting that on my plate. So, but it's sacrificing, it's me seeing, you know, slowly but surely the numbers start to go down on that scale, and it motivates me. It keeps me motivated to say, I'm gonna continue to say no to this. I'm gonna continue to say yes to this. I'm gonna continue to do this, even though I want this, even though I want, what I'm saying, like this snack or this thing right here, this thing right there. I know that it isn't always the best thing, or I know it's very, very rarely the best thing for me, and probably not what I need. And, it's just making those, is continuing to make those sacrifices and those choices to get to where you want to be. And I know I've talked about it before, about how we become our biggest obstacle. Sometimes we become, or a lot of times, we become our biggest thing as to why we don't make it, or why we don't get that opportunity, or why we don't make that opportunity last, or make that opportunity work, or we get passed by, whatever the case may be. It's a lot of it is work ethic, you know what I'm saying, and things like that, and just willing to sacrifice. Like, you have these people out here who hit rock bottom and they see I literally have nowhere else to go but up. And the only way for me to go up, I have to let go of these things. You know what I'm saying? I have to stop drowning myself. I have to quit anchoring myself to these things or these people or whatever the case may be, to get to start rising, to start getting to where I want to be. And I think that, that's a very powerful message, is realizing that, you are maybe one or two sacrifices away, one or two things that, you have to let go to get to that next level, and maybe you have to sacrifice your pride, maybe you have to sacrifice your ego to get to where you want to be. There are those little things that you just have to start letting go of, but we hold on to so tightly, what I'm saying, that they become a part of who we are, and we don't know how to live without it. We don't know how to move without it. So, it's important to start learning. It's important to start figuring out what those things are that you're going to have to let go of to get to where you want to be, or those people or those environments, whatever it is, those things that you're going to have to start separating yourself from, so that way you can get to where you want to be, where you can be, you're supposed to be. It's important to start realizing, because I think for all of us, for most of us, nobody wants to sacrifice, right? And I understand that, nobody wants to let go of their favorite whatever, you know what I'm saying, the things that they enjoy doing or the people that they enjoy being around. Nobody wants to just willingly let go of those things. And we have to understand that sometimes those things are what's holding us back, but we have to see that. We have to, sometimes it has to be put in the plain sight for us to see, hey, this is the reason why you don't have, or this is the reason why you can't make this or that happen. You have to see that this is hurting you. This is holding you back. And until we see that, we don't, we see that as, this thing, this person, whatever it is, can always be a part of us. We can take everything with us, and we have to literally be shown that, nah, you can't take this with you. This can't go with you, unfortunately. And it's a it's a tough pill to swallow, because a lot of us just assume that everybody who's been around wants what's best for us. You know what I'm saying? They want to see what's good for us. And there are some cases where there are plenty of cases where that's true, but then there are also those cases where the reason why you're around is because you fit what they need. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a certain place in their life and you fit that. And so maybe you're a person who doesn't have boundaries, and so they know that they can go do whatever they want to do, and they don't have to worry about you being like, oh, well, now I got boundaries. You can't do that, or they know that they can go to you. And I'll use me as an example. I'm a lot of my friends' emotional. I was allowing myself to be a lot of my friends' emotional dumping ground, and that does not make them bad people. Like I said, I was allowing it because, you know, I knew 9 times out of 10 what they were calling for, what they were calling to do. And I picked up the phone and I let them do it. So I don't want to make them seem like bad people, but because they're not, that's just what it was. That's what I allowed. I knew that, 9 times out of 10, they finna come and just dump a lot of, or if everything that they're going through, they're finna just dump it at my feet, no matter what I may be going through, because I never spoke about what I was going through. I never spoke about, hey, I got a lot going on. If this is just some emotional dumping that you're about to do, can we I just need a break. I never put that wall up. I never put that boundary up. I never put that limitation up on them. So they just knew, hey, if I'm going through something, I know where I can drop off some of my emotion. And so, again, I don't think that they're bad people. It was just never a boundary up. And so once I started to go to therapy and I started to realize that that's what's going on, and like, that's a part of my stress, because I'm taking on the things that and the emotions that they're going through, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. So there's nothing I can do, because if somebody's going through something with their significant other, I have no way of contacting their significant other to be like, hey, can y'all fix this? Can y'all, you know what I'm saying? So there's literally nothing I can do to try to fix what's going on. So I had to start to set up those boundaries and start to set up those walls and start to have those tough, uncomfortable conversations, like I know I spoke about in an episode previously, to start to create a safe space for myself in my own life. You know what I'm saying? And a safe emotional space where, I can still talk to my friends without the stress or the worry of, okay, what are they getting ready to unload on me now? What are they getting ready to unpack, and leave with me? What are they getting ready to dump on me? So, we had to get to that space. And, some people understood, and then you had your people who didn't. You had your people who, now we are nowhere near as close as we used to be, because I needed to I needed to have those uncomfortable conversations, and I needed to set parameters for what I need my friendship to look like. What I need our friendship to look like, what I need going forward, as far as just being able to have a space where I'm just a friend. I don't have to be, I'm not just an emotional, a place where you can dump your emotions. I'm also just a friend where we just ask each other how we doing. We can talk about something else. And, we can just have regular everyday conversations that don't involve, just dumping all your emotions and traumas and your anger, frustration, and all this stuff on my lap. And then, you getting to walk away feeling good because you've vented or you've gotten it out. And I'm just kind of left with these emotions that being honest, don't have nothing to do with me, but they're weighing on me. So yeah, I had to find that balance. And part of that was having those conversations and realizing that some people were going to fall completely off. Some people were going to take some steps back, but that was a part of it. That was a part of the sacrifice that, well, at least one of them that I've had to make, on this journey of healing and growing and self growth for myself. And it it didn't it felt it was it's one of those things that feels good and bad at the same time, because again, you get used to these people being there. You get used to the rhythm of them, the calling, or the rhythm of them texting and things like that. So at least for me, when that rhythm got disturbed, it was kind of weird, and it felt, at the moment, lonely, like like I was being abandoned. And so I took it, especially in the beginning when it first started, I took it the wrong way, and I had to, again, go to therapy and realize that no, this is exactly what you need. This is exactly what you want. It just feels weird because it's different. You used to a certain amount of your time being filled with text messages and calls about other people's drama and trauma. So now that space isn't being filled by that, there's this sense of emptiness. There's this sense of loneliness. But what I had to realize is that was also what it really was just me taking back my time, taking back and starting to create this emotional safe space for myself. And I had to change the way I looked at it, and I had to change my perspective, because I was looking at it in such a negative way, because in, because my expectation was, that I would have these conversations with people, and they would still call as much as they did, they would still text as much as they did, but it would just be about just regular, everyday conversations, and not just about the trauma and the drama that's going on. And so again, and as I know, I've talked about, that expectation got the better of me because, I'm expecting one thing, and then we all know reality is way different than your expectations a lot of the time. So in real life, it made people fall back because they appreciated the no boundary. They appreciated, hey, I can just go dump, dump, dump over there. And now that they no longer can dump over here, they, don't, and I'm not going because I don't want to say that they don't have a use for me anymore, but I can honestly say, but what I feel like I can say is they don't, they may not see the use in me anymore, or at the very least, the use in talking to me every single day the way they used to. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. I want to make sure that, I put that out there. Like, that's okay. I don't think anything about it. I completely understand because from their standpoint, that was the space that I occupied in their life. That was my role. That's what I did. And so now that I'm taking that role away, I'm taking that space away from them, that they no longer have that to that it's no longer the place where they just get to unload all their trauma and drama. They got to go now. They have to shift things around, and now they have to go figure out where they can, go place their traumas and their drama. So, that wasn't just a shakeup for me. That was a shakeup for them. And now they have to go, they're having to figure things out. And I'm sure they have figured those things out. But that's a part of it. I know I talked about it before, those tough conversations, and realizing that with those tough conversations, there's going to come changes, there's going to come sacrifices, going to come things that certain things are not going to look the same once you start having these conversations and once you start making these sacrifices. And yes, it may look bad in the beginning, but I'm telling you, if you're making the right sacrifices and you're sacrificing the things that you need to let go of, it's going to feel weird. You're going to want to resist. Your mind is going to tell you this is bad. You need to go back to doing what you used to do, or going back to hanging out where you used to hang out with who you used to hang out with. But I'm telling you, stick with it, and you'll start to see, you'll already see the changes, but you'll start to see those changes in a positive light once you start to switch your perspective, because that's another thing that has to change the way you view things, the way you see things. You have to try to change your perspective and start to look at things from different angles to, to really start to see the worth in yourself, the worth in, your purpose and what you're trying to do, and understand that, yes, you're going to, even when you sacrifice, you're going to have your great days and you're going to have your bad days, and your bad days, along with the fact that you're sacrificing, are going to put you in some terrible moods. And they may, like how they did for me at times, you may get some waves of depression. And that's why I'm so thankful for my therapist, because through this entire process, I haven't had to do very much by myself. There are some parts of your journey, some parts of your walk that you have to do by yourself, but I haven't had to do everything by myself. So as at the time, I felt like the way I saw it, because I hadn't changed my perspective yet. So at the time, as I'm seeing everybody kind of, from my point of view, turn their back on me after I've, kind of had these conversations, and I needed to create a safe space for myself, and then, work isn't, may have not been going well, or, you know, the job search, because I was also searching for another job at the time. So like nothing's really working. And again, because my viewpoint stayed the same. I'm making all these sacrifices, and all these changes are coming because of the sacrifice, but my viewpoint stayed the same. I was looking at everything from the same perspective as I was looking before I started to make these changes. And from that viewpoint, people turning their backs on me. My job, I hate my job. I nobody's hiring. I can't find the jobs that I need I can't find the jobs that I want for the pay that I want. Um, all of this stuff is going on. And then when I do find a job now, I'm losing it because I can't pass the physical because of my blood pressure. So it was just like I was at a low point, you know what I'm saying? Because all of these things are happening and I never changed my perspective. And so again, going through therapy, finally, my therapist session came around and I'm just talking to my therapist about all this stuff. And she was just like, she's just asking me all these questions and making me see things from a different perspective. It's like, okay, yes, you may not have the job that you want and the pay that you want, but you have a job where you've been able to pay your car off. You've been able to, pay the bill, pay your bills, do everything that you need to do. So you looking at this job like it's a negative thing when really it's helping you do the things that you need to do. Like you have a lot to be thankful for. You have a lot to be happy for. You have a roof over your head. You have heat during the winter. You have AC during the summer. You know what I'm saying? So you have a bed to sleep in, a TV to watch, and your job helps provide a lot of that stuff. And so again, had to change my perspective. And it's like, you know what? You're right. I need to be thankful for this job because it has afforded me things that I couldn't have and I couldn't do when I didn't have a job. So I am appreciative for this job, the same job that, again, before I changed my perspective, I was ready to let go of. And of course, I still want better. But until I find that, I'm thankful for this job because it's done so much for me. And again, losing out on that opportunity with that job, it's helped me to start to change my life around. Now I'm in the gym 5 days a week and I'm doing better. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing better with my eating and I'm down 15 pounds, which is amazing. So there's a lot of great things once I started to look at things from a different point of view about where I am and where I want to be, because I think that for me, for the longest time, I was keeping the same perspective and I was keeping the same mindset of I want this is what I want. This is where I want to be, instead of the mindset of let me be thankful for what I have. Let me be thankful because I guess I always looked at it from the standpoint of what I don't have, of the things that I want that I'm trying to obtain and what I don't have. And in the middle of that are the things that you do have and the things that you should be appreciative of. Because, granted, I know your life isn't perfect. Nobody's is. But if you have a job, if you have a car, if you have a roof over your head, if you have family willing to support you, friends willing to support you, if you have a good infrastructure, and again, it may not be perfect and there may be things that you don't like about it. There may be people around that you don't like, that's okay. But I'm pretty sure that there are things in your life that are good. You may not be able to see it because, again, the perspective that you're looking at it from, the angles that you're looking at these things from, you may not see it. But when you change the angle and you change the perspective, you start to realize that, okay, this isn't such a bad thing. This has helped me in this way. This has motivated me. I don't care if you don't like your job, you don't like it to the point to where it's motivated you to go back to school so that you can get something else, or it's motivated you to whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's motivating you. And you might look at it as a negative thing, but if it's motivating you to do better because you want more for yourself, because you don't want to be there, that's a positive thing. It's just all about how you look at it. You may only see the negative that their job is doing. If somebody came to me and told me that, I'm like, okay, well, we know it's motivating you. You see that this isn't where you want to be. You want to be somewhere else. And if it's motivating you enough to where you're willing to go back to school to get that degree or to get that training, to get that certification to where you can go do something else, it's doing its job. Because what I don't want for you, because it isn't what I want for myself, is staying stagnant, for you to get so comfortable in a place to where you stop moving, you stop dreaming, you stop looking ahead, you stop looking for the next thing, or to keep moving up, because you done got comfortable, and now you're comfortable in a place where you weren't meant to stay, and now you find comfort in that and you get stagnant. So sometimes we need those places that make us uncomfortable, because one thing that I'm learning, and it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, is there's no growth in comfort zone. You got to get uncomfortable. Discomfort leads to growth, because discomfort going to lead you to, okay, I got to get outside this bubble. I'm real comfortable in this bubble. Now this bubble's starting to get uncomfortable. Now I got to find what areas in my life I can start to move outside this bubble. And so sometimes that's what the job or whatever, that's what this person is. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got to go stay with your parents again until you get back on your feet, and now your parents are making you real uncomfortable. I used to see that as a bad thing. Now I see that as a great thing, because I realize that discomfort is a part of growth. So you getting real uncomfortable with your parents, or you getting real uncomfortable with that job, that means, okay, it's time to grow. It's time for something to change. It's time for some type of movement. And sometimes we do have to move backwards to take a leap forward. So sometimes you may have to take a job with lesser pay, but you have more time to go to school. I'm just using this as an example. Now you got more time to go to school to get that degree. So now you can go further in life. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it happens like that, but that discomfort, when you start to feel it, that's a good thing, in my opinion, because that means that it's time for change. You've grown as much as you can grow in this, at this job or at this position, with this company, whatever it may be. You've grown as far as you can. You have no more room to grow. So now it's uncomfortable in this spot. It was real comfortable when you had all that space, but now you've grown and you've taken up all that space. Now it's uncomfortable. It's time for growth. And so for me, my understanding of what comfort is and the potential dangers of getting too comfortable, now I understand the beauty of that discomfort of becoming uncomfortable with people or uncomfortable with situations. That means, okay, something has to change. Now you got to start to move. Now you being forced, because you're uncomfortable, you being forced to move in directions you weren't probably even looking. You was probably okay with, this. And so that's a good thing for me, because when you find that comfort and you just stay there, or you get to a point to where you're stagnant, and you stay stagnant for so long, and you become so opposed to change. And prior to therapy, that's where I was just so comfortable in my comfort zone that I just ran away from any type of change. And I just was so stagnant. And I mean, even now I'm fighting I'm fighting that, because because I'm a homebody. And so my therapist, just saying, like, you got to find those things that make you want to get outside more, to make you want to go be with your friends more, to go hang out more. You got to get outside of these four walls. And so, that's one of the things where I'm trying to push to get that change. One of the things that I'm doing now is the gym. So, but I'm trying to find something outside of work in the gym that'll get me outside and wanting to be around people, want to be enthusiastic about being outside. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on, to try to make that change, and, change my perspective and all those things. So I'm working on it. It isn't easy, because again, that's been my thing for so long, but it is starting to, I'm starting to get that slight discomfort feeling. So it is, I know that it's coming. I'm just keeping the lookout on the things that, might be going on in the city, to help get me out of my comfort zone, and get me out of, just wanting to come home and be in the house when I'm not either at the work, or when I'm at neither not at the gym. I said the work, not in the gym or at work, So I know that I'll get there, but just got to keep, reminding myself that that's something that I have to actively work on, and, start moving towards. But I know that I will get there. I know that it will happen eventually. It's just a matter of continuing to push and get to that place where I'm comfortable with with doing that. But I say all of that just to say you got to start getting outside of yourself, getting outside of your comfort zone, and you got to be willing to start making those sacrifices and those perspective changes to get to where you want to be. That's something that has to come with the sacrifice. You have to also start to change your perspective, change your viewpoint on things when you're making these sacrifices, because what comes with those sacrifices are a lot of changes. And if you don't start to change your perspective as these changes start to happen, you're looking at the changes in the wrong way. And you might take a positive change as something negative just because of how you're viewing it. Your viewpoint can literally take a job that you're not happy with and turn it into a job that you're thankful for. Yes, you may still not be happy with it, but at least you're thankful for it because you can at least see the positive and the good things that this job is doing for you. Even though you may not like it, it's helping you afford your bills. It's helping you take care of things you need to take care of. So there are some good in these things. And that's what we need to focus on. Stop focusing on the negative and everything and focus on the good. So if you have people leaving your life, okay, that makes more time for you and that makes more space for people who can be more productive in your life. The type of support you may need to put yourself around people who are doing the things that you want to do. If you want to run a business, you need to start surrounding yourself with people who own businesses. And inevitably, if you want to bring people in to your space, there are going to be people who eventually move out. So don't look at every single change as something negative. Look, try to find the positive in every single change that starts to happen as you start to make these sacrifices to get to where you want to be. Because I truly do believe that sometimes that decision, whatever that decision is, whatever that thing that you've been trying not to do, or that sacrifice you've been trying not to make, sometimes that is the last wall that you have to either climb over or break through to get to your breakthrough. But man, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening, on whatever platforms you're listening to the podcast on, and to everybody watching on YouTube. I want to thank y'all. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And another thing that I am going to start doing, I'm going to start doing a better job of promoting the podcast, because that's one of the things where I have been lacking. So I am going to do a better job with trying to promote it on my social media accounts. But until the next time we meet, y'all stay blessed.